Yeah, man, welcome to the Aaron L Show. We're gonna do another video, and this video gonna be about P. Diddy. People that don't know, P. Diddy was convicted of sex trafficking. I guess paying for escorts to go from state to state, meeting him at hotels, meeting him at parties that he was hosting in different cities and states in the United States. And P. Diddy was ultimately convicted of that and was given like 4 or 5 years in federal prison. He is in there actually serving his time right now. But there's a lot of allegations that's surfacing about P. Diddy right now from his past history. And the allegations that's surfacing is that P. Diddy is HIV positive and have been for a long time. Now, what they're saying is that these allegations go all the way back to old artists that you guys probably remember if you are a Bad Boy fan, the record label that he owns and founded. One of his old artists was Craig Mack. A lot of people are saying that Craig Mack was contracted HIV being associated with P. Diddy, maybe at some of P. Diddy parties, maybe having intercourse with some women that P. Diddy had intercourse with, or actually having a situation with P. Diddy himself and contracted HIV. This is the allegations, allegedly. So, you know, it goes all the way back to, you know, Usher used to deal with P. Diddy, and Usher did an interview stating that back when he was a kid, about 13, 14 years old, that he was sent to P. Diddy to kind of like learn about the industry and stuff like that. And there's been allegations that Usher gave a lady herpes years ago, and I think it was a lawsuit or something filed on him, and it was ultimately settled out of court. And you know, maybe a gag order was in place where once she get the settlement, she can't speak on it no more. So that kind of died off. So really, people don't really talk about stuff like that no more. And it just, you know, it's a lady called Jaguar Wright. She's been saying this for years about P. Diddy and Jay-Z, just talking about, you know, just the cruelty that they bring to the industry and the cruelty that they bring to the people that they deal with, and just how they are sexually and how they get down and just a lot of stuff. But people look at Jaguar Wright and you hear kind of like the crazy allegations she got, and you think to yourself, like, this lady crazy. You know, some of the stuff she said is just kind of far-fetched to a point where you just feel like, you know, she probably got a bad deal in the industry, and now she want to bad talk everybody in the game because she got the short end of the stick. You know, but now that time is starting to pass, and you starting to look at Jaguar Wright, and you starting to look at a lot of people in the industry, you start to kind of see some of the stuff that she has been talking about is coming true, to a point where you see these freak off parties that Diddy is throwing. You know, we're hearing about the baby oil and the encounter with men. We're hearing about him and Cassidy paying people to come to hotels or have sexual intercourse with her and Diddy. Diddy paying men to have sexual intercourse with Cassidy while he watched. We saw the video footage of Diddy assaulting Cassidy in a hotel. We saw these different things that's going on with Diddy, but now the new allegations are arousing that, you know, P. Diddy has HIV, but he was able to get the medicine on the street that kept him undetected, to where if he took a blood test, it would say he's negative. So now the situation is coming up to where they're basically saying that Diddy's in federal prison, and there's starting to be an STD outbreak in the prison that he's in. They are basically saying that, you know, ever since Diddy's been in federal prison, that it's been inmates allegedly becoming infected at a high risk and a high rate in that prison where Diddy is at. So a lot of allegations is coming out basically saying that P. Diddy, I guess, is having a sexual encounter with men while he's in prison. He's infecting these men because maybe he's not able to get the medicine that he was getting on the street. So now his HIV could be detectable in his bloodstream, which ultimately could be transferred to someone else sexually. I don't know if you have HIV and you're taking a proper medication and it's undetectable in your bloodstream, can you still sexually give it to someone else? I'm not for sure. You more than likely you should be able to, because you're still infected. It's just such a small number in your bloodstream that it's undetectable on a test, but you're still infected. You know, so, but what's happening is Diddy's probably having a sexual encounter with someone in prison, infected them. They go and have another sexual encounter with someone else and infects them. You know, there are allegations that female guards are being basically paid for sexual favors. Some of those guards inside prisons, that's not far-fetched. You know what I mean? To think that, hey, an inmate could bribe a guard in there with a certain amount of money, and she's willing to do a sexual favor, and then she could be infected, not knowing that this inmate is HIV positive. So there's a lot of things coming out on Diddy right now. You know, he's back in the headlines. You know, and Diddy's getting close to coming home. Diddy's probably 2 years from the house. You know, they didn't give Diddy much time. Diddy got about 4 or 5 years. So Diddy's been down at least 2.5, and then he got his lawyers petitioning and filing motions. You know, he's still fighting, trying to get out early. You know, so Diddy could be 12 months from the house. We don't know. You know, it could be a break in this case in the next 6 months where Diddy come home on ankle monitor. You know, it's so many programs to get an early release, and far as we know, he's been doing good time. Yeah, these allegations are coming out, hey, Diddy's infecting the whole prison. But at the end of the day, we don't have no proof that's happening, and we haven't heard nothing out of the ordinary violent happening since he been in there. I mean, they said there's been a couple of incidents where he went to a prison and needed to get transferred because there's a lot of people that was in there from the Biggie and Tupac era, and some people feel some type of way as if Diddy has something to do with the Pac and Biggie situation. But you know, we don't, them are all allegations, so we really can't really tell what the truth is. But like I say, it is not far-fetched to think that Diddy is HIV positive. We know about the sexual encounters. They're saying there's a lot of artists he could have infected. You know, allegedly Meek Mills, allegedly Rick Ross, allegedly DJ Khaled. You know, it's a lot of people that's been encountering Diddy, and they don't have to have a sexual encounter with Diddy himself. It could be a female Diddy dealt with. You know, it doesn't have to get passed on because Diddy got it. Diddy could have just been sleeping with a female and she got passed around a circle, and everybody was just having a sexual encounter with her unprotected. So we really don't know how all of this could have spread, you know, because a lot of people were saying that Meek Mills and Diddy had a sexual relationship. So it's a lot of allegations that's starting to come out on Diddy. Like I said, again, he's back in the headlines. It's not far-fetched to think that Diddy could be infecting people while he's in the prison system. But he will be coming home soon. You know, and, you know, I'm a Diddy fan. I, you know, listen to Bad Boy music. I was a Biggie fan. You know, it's a lot of hits. Back when he was doing business with Mace. Mace had some hot hits back in the day when I was coming up. So, you know, I grew up on the music. You know what I mean? But, you know, Diddy was found guilty, and he's serving the crime for the time. You know, he's serving time for the crime that he did. So we can't, you know, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I'm going to keep an update on this, because if Diddy's infected with HIV, it's probably a lot of people in the industry that's infected too. And you got to be very careful who you lay down with, especially unprotected. You know what I mean? And this is the Aaron L Show. Please like, comment, subscribe. We're going to keep the videos coming. Y'all rock with me, and I'm going to stay dropping them.